Today we're going over the version 5.5 special program featuring some really exciting stuff, couple of new characters, one I've been particularly excited about ever since we saw the silhouette a while ago, Varesa to be specific, but I'll be honest, like mechanics-wise, Iansan sounds really interesting, a little weird and confusing, but again, we'll get to her in a second. As usual, redemption codes will be in the comments below if you haven't redeemed them yet, but yeah, with version 5.5, we will not only be getting these two new characters, but also a whole new area, a new tribe as well, the Collective of Plenty, where both Varesa and Iansan come from, as well as a new animal dude that you can transform into, which I guess represents Varesa, as they do have similar mechanics. Like this dude runs fast, he like smashes through boulders and stuff. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump straight into Varesa with a little bit of lore. She's a laid-back orchard manager and warrior of the Collective of Plenty, the new tribe. And what seems to be most prominent is her love of food. Her combat looks really interesting, so she's a melee unit, but like incorporates some wrestling moves. You have like a drop kick going on. Her core attack is plunging though, so she's a plunging DPS. I guess the funniest thing about this is that, you know, most plunging DPSs follow their plunge with like a weapon. In her case, it's her butt, I guess. She sits on her enemies to death, which, you know, instant pull material. When you do her charge attack, this is what kind of follows her into the plunge animation or gets her high enough to do the plunge. When you do her elemental skill though, it makes normal attacks follow into charge attacks, which then of course follow into the plunge attack. As an Atlan character, she of course has a Night Soul point bar, and she gets these Night Soul points through plunge attacks. And when her Night Soul points fill up, she enters a special state that enhances her plunges. It'll also enhance her burst for a short time after plunging. It looks to just be damage, but the interesting thing is that when used like this, the enhanced burst, her energy consumption is less, so perhaps she'll just retain some energy after bursting? Not too sure. We'll have to assess that later. It is pretty interesting what they're doing with like energy mechanics these days, you know, at least since Mawika. When you do her non-enhanced burst, so not in the special state and not directly after a plunge, it will put her in that same special state you get from filling Night Soul points, and then of course also deals damage. So combat-wise, at least first impressions, she does seem pretty straightforward, or as straightforward as a Natlan character can be with all the Night Soul point stuff going on. She's a plunging DPS, which I think are some of the more fun types of DPSs, like Gaming especially. So if she works like as smoothly as Gaming does, then I'm really hyped for her. But anyway, like all Natlan characters, her movement seems excellent. You can hold her elemental skill to run fast over land, water, or lava. She can also jump high and break through obstacles, much like the new animal companion we were talking about. In terms of element and weapon type, it wasn't immediately obvious, but considering she gets electro chunks from her quest and some of her effects are purple instead of pink, she's most definitely an electro. Also, her normals appear to deal elemental damage, and it's typical that pugilist types are always catalysts. There is also the fact we're getting a new 5-star catalyst on the banner coming later, so yeah. Overall, sounds like a really exciting character, and I just honestly love her design so much. She's an absolutely adorable character. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to Iansan with, again, tiny bit of lore. So she's the head coach and a nutritionist at the Collective of Plenty. She is really into fitness and training people. But yeah, moving on to combat, it's definitely more obvious. She's an electro polearm. I mean, massive barbell user. Her normal attacks though don't seem to be all that important to her kit. Her elemental skill though has her dash forward and gain some Night Soul points. We'll get into what her Night Soul points does in a second, but yeah, her burst is where things get a little wacky. It starts with a ground pound, but then summons a special energy scale, I assume represented by this little dude here. So the main thing about Iansan is that she is an attack buffer. She buffs the attack of the active character based on, I think, 3 things. First, for sure, it's her own attack. What I don't know is if it's base attack like Bennett or total attack, as they don't specify. Second and third are very intertwined, but this little energy scale she summons tracks the movement of active characters, and it, I guess, fills up as they run around. It's a little odd. We've never seen a mechanic quite like this, but it's also based on her Night Soul points. The thing is, she also gains Night Soul points based on the active character's movement. So they're like very closely tied. I guess it's not too important that we separate them and say it's 2 separate things. Basically, the attack buff is better if you have characters moving around a lot. We can sum it up like that just to keep some sanity. One very good example they showcased here for a couple seconds is Kanich. He is zooming around all the time while connected to the character, and he scales with attacks, so I imagine they're going to be very good teammates. Regardless though, this is pretty exciting because if her attack buff can even somewhat compete with Bennett's, this would be amazing, as it's like the polar opposite. The attack buff follows you around and explicitly promotes moving around, unlike Bennett's static buff area. Also, much like Bennett, she has the ability to heal the active character. It works in a different, more passive way though. When a Night Soul burst happens, she enters the warming up effect, and when she gains any Night Soul points in this effect, she'll heal the active character. By how much, how often, and how long this effect lasts, we don't know, but it seems like she's slated to be the Bennett for high movement teams. Granted, we already have tons of ways to increase attack, but Bennett just keeps coming back and back because 1,000 flat attack is almost impossible to beat. If her attack buff is percent based, like most other attack buffs are, it still could compete with Bennett's attack buff, but it would need to be a very high percent. Again, with her own movement, it seems to be pretty similar to Varesa, fast running. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the banners now. Varesa and Iansan are together in phase 1, which I'm very happy about. I was kind of hoping Iansan would be a 5-star, but I was expecting she'd be a 4-star. After learning about her general kit though, it makes sense she's a 4-star, as she definitely seems to be more support focused, and typically 4-star stats don't hinder, support focused characters that much. Even DPSs, like ever since Gaming, I don't sleep on 4-star DPSs anymore, because he can be absolutely insane as a DPS. Of course, we'll have her signature weapon as well. No official details about that yet, but I'll give some thoughts when available. In phase 2, we have Zealonin coming back already, which on one hand makes sense because she's an absolutely goated character, but on the other hand, I'm surprised it's so soon. And then there's Venti chilling there as well. Would be so curious to know the ratio of people who summon for Venti versus people who summon for Zealonin. Next up, we got a new lava boss for, I guess, the new area. You'll need to farm him to get Varesa mats, so sadly we can't prepare everything in advance for her. They also mentioned the boss location quality of life thing. I made a short about this yesterday, alongside a lot of the other system optimizations, but as I prefer to keep my shorts like 40 seconds, we didn't go into too much detail. But it's pretty straightforward. It'll just show you where like the cave entrance is for the boss if you're having a hard time finding it. There are definitely some bosses I've had a hard time finding when I wasn't going through a story or a quest that naturally leads me there. So I think that's a nice little quality of life thing they're doing there. Anyway, we do have a bit of a trailer / showcase here for the new area. Big volcano place, and at one point we actually go inside the volcano, which is crazy. And then inside the volcano does not look like a volcano at all. It's like a whole other area, special city. I don't know what's going on, but it looks really nice. Moving on to events, the main one being the Tournament of Glory and Bloom. We can get a crown and a free Auroron, which sadly I got mine to C6 already, but it's fine. It's fine. We're apparently going on a quest to collect some sacred flame crystals. Gameplay wise, it'll basically be split up into combat and puzzle. It's basically like capture the flag for offensive and defend the flag on defensive. We can sort of boil it down to a combat event with that extra mechanic there. Then on the other side, we got like this puzzle event where you're guiding the Saurian, choosing which direction they go, avoiding traps, collecting the good stuff. Seems fine. I actually really enjoyed one of the previous puzzles recently where you're like stepping on these colors and it makes bridges spawn and stuff, and then you have like clones doing the same thing. I actually had to think about that one at times, which was, pretty cool. Moving on from the main event, the little events, we have this coin collecting one. It is co-op / versus, I guess. You're playing with other players. I guess the thing that separates this one is that you can actually use characters' skills, but you will be designated a character, so I don't think you have complete freedom about who you choose. But yeah, the fact you can use skills in an event like this is definitely different. We also have this like brick breaking event coming back. We've had something very similar, but apparently this one's more rhythm-esque. You have to hit the ball to the beat, which kind of seems like you don't really have control over as the ball falls itself. I don't really know how this one works, but whatever. It's basically brick break, but there are also reactions based on your paddle, and it can, get pretty cool. Next up, what seems to be a pretty hardcore combat event, Unlimited Fighting Championship. It's kind of like Abyss in that you have two halves, but the first half gives buffs to the second half. So it's definitely interesting. Do you put your stronger team in first half to give, your weaker team some buffs? Or do you put stronger team in second and just go absolutely wild with them? Which I guess will also depend on, if second half is harder than first half. And apparently on extreme difficulty, the enemies have 9,999 health bars. Not HP, health bars, which is kind of crazy. But it looks like for the highest metal, you only need to deplete 900 of them. So yeah, from this clip, it looks like some attacks are taking off like multiple health bars at once. So I guess it's more of a gimmick than anything, but it is pretty cool. Next time we have Overflowing Favor. This is a new one, very similar to, Overflowing Ley Lines where we get double rewards, but it's for artifacts. I'm not sure we've ever had this before. So that's actually really neat. I assume 3 runs a day, as it usually is, but we'll see. Also makes sense because we're getting 2 brand new artifact sets, which I really wasn't expecting. I kind of forgot they make new artifact sets. It feels like it's been forever since we've had new artifact sets. Sadly, no details revealed about them, but again, I will be sure to give some thoughts when, we have some info. We'll also be getting some new Natlan songs for the permanent rhythm game, new echoes for Vinti and Dia, TCG update as every patch, and finally system optimizations. Again, I went over most of these in a short yesterday, but I know not everyone watches shorts, so we'll go over them again. Firstly, sanctifying elixirs are buffed, so when you make an artifact using these, the 2 subsets you choose are guaranteed to be rolled into at least twice by the time you get it to 20. Because of the wording, I'm not sure if there's like some other special hidden rules in here, like if it's a pity system in a way. So if you get no rolls into crit rate and crit damage, for example, by 12, then obviously 16 and 20 will be crit rate or crit damage. But say you got 1 roll into each by, +8, then did it actually even have an effect in that case? Who knows? Regardless, it's obviously still better. At worst, sanctifying elixir artifacts are going to end up being mid, and not potentially almost useless as it is now. Next, we got an upgrade to Treasure Compass. It can detect more items, the boss tracking we talked about earlier, and the search function for mail. There was actually more in the short, like controller support for Android, Serena Teapot stuff, but yeah, I don't know. Check that out if you want all the details about the dev note. Oh wait, I almost forgot. The Genshin X Seagate collab where you can get a Sino SSD. No, I mean, that's pretty cool. I'm just wondering why they chose Sino for this. I guess because it's lightning fast, but they could have used like Raiden or something. And that was actually it for this special program for version 5.5. All around sounds like a very nice patch. 2 new characters, new area, new boss, some nice system optimizations. Let me know what you think about version 5.5 or the video in the comments down below though. Dropping a like or subscribing to the channel if you enjoyed is always greatly appreciated as well. Thanks, as always, for watching, and until next time.